and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, I am Babalwa the accountant. I help small business owners build profitable and compliant businesses. So you must be asking yourself, why is bookkeeping so important in my business? And sometimes bookkeeping is one of those things that you do not take seriously. I'm going to record it later. I'm going to record these transactions later. 1 month goes by, 3 months goes by, and then before you know it, it's a year and you have not been prioritizing bookkeeping. Bookkeeping is one of those functionalities where not recording your transactions might quietly be damaging to your business. In this video, I'm going to be talking about why you should be prioritizing bookkeeping and what happens when you don't prioritize bookkeeping. Without wasting any time, let's get into the video. Number one, if you're not recording your transactions, you really do not have insight on whether you're making money or not. Sometimes people that are in business, they think they're making money, right? But making money is essentially the profit. It's not money coming in, it's money coming in and also tracing those expenses and the costs that are going out at the rate. So you need to make sure that you are minimizing their costs as much as possible. So not having insights on what's happening with your books on a daily basis, a monthly basis, a 3 months basis, you don't know how much is coming in and how much is being spent, and that becomes detrimental to your business. Most important, cash is king. Cash flow. You don't know how much you actually have, or you don't have insights of how much you have. You can have so much revenue, you can have minimum expenses, and then you got a grip on that. But then revenue sometimes just means that some customers are not paying cash, and then you're not collecting the money as you should be. So having insights on your bookkeeping tells you revenue ratios, how much is the revenue ratio as compared to how much cash flow is coming in. That is the kind of insight that you as a business owner need to have, and you need to make sure that you are ahead of that information. Tax season becomes a nightmare. It's not just about an accountant. You shifting all your work to an accountant and saying, hey, do my books. You also need to be accountable for the expenses that are coming in, because remember, an accountant is not the business owner. So if you do not have the records of your slips, you don't have the records of the transactions, and sometimes you cannot recall what those transactions were about, then that becomes a problem for the accountant, because it's going to go into the tax, and then it's going to make your business pay more tax than it should. You're not getting the rebates that you should be getting because you do not have the documentations, you don't have the supporting documents that you need to produce at audit, or maybe when SARS is asking you to verify some documents and say, hey, we've seen that you are claiming these kind of expenses, accountant is claiming this kind of expenses, then we want to get the source documents. So the accountant sitting here is not going to allow you to claim those expenses if you don't have the source documents. So this is where you come in as the business owner. You need to make sure that bookkeeping is an important function within your business. You miss fraud and errors. So remember, sometimes you might have document invoices. You're not allowed to have the same invoice number, right? You can't use invoice number 100, 100, 100. That is not allowed. You need to have a unique invoice number with each and every invoice that you're issuing. If you're using a system, for example, like Sage Accounting, those you can minimize those kind of errors because you're not using a manual system. Sage does not allow you to have the same invoice number. It's going to generate a unique invoice number. But then I'm talking about someone maybe who's starting out, who does not have a system in place that's going to actually help them with making sure they generate new invoice numbers. So those are errors that can cost your business. So making sure that you're looking at the bookkeeping as a main function in your business as well as a business owner actually helps you minimize those errors. You need to be able to make decisions as quickly as you can. But then if you don't have insights on the finances of the business, you don't know what is happening, you cannot make hiring decisions quicker, because you need to make sure you're working backwards. So you need to go and look at the finances, work backwards, make sure everything is done, because bookkeeping is not that function that you prioritize. And also you cannot hire people. Maybe you might hire people, but then you have not really budgeted on how much that cost to company is going to affect your business financial, the bottom line of your business. Also, you can't hire equipment. It depends on what business you are on. Those decisions, you cannot make them as quickly as you should, because you don't have insights on how the business is performing. So this is the reason why, one of the reasons why you need to make sure that bookkeeping is a core function. Someone actually said something to me when they inquired about bookkeeping, and they said, do you do bookkeeping in your business? And I said, yeah, it's part of our function. He said, I want a strategic partner, because I've had accountants, but then accountants take the data, they record the data, and they report on the data, but I want a strategic partner. And I asked them, hey, elaborate on this strategic partnership. And they were like, no, the function of the bookkeeper accountant is someone that I'm able to get management accounts, management reports that says, this is how I'm trending on this week, this is how I'm trending with my sales, this is how I'm trending on my stock levels, this is how it is. It just put everything into perspective, because bookkeeping is part of strategic partnership within the business. You help the business owner who comes up with the strategy as the engine that gives them the data to make those informed decisions. So this is why you also need to make sure you prioritize it. Oh, the overwhelm of year end, have you ever worked as an accountant? I work as an accountant, and I work with business owners that get overwhelmed because they think that they're going to just give you the information as the accountant, and then you compile the information for them. But then when you go back to them and want them to account for everything, how did this happen? What was this one about? They get frustrated because it's influx of information. How am I supposed to recall that in March I spent 50,000 on that if it's not something significant that I can think about? If someone is making millions, well, depends on the ratio of how much they're making. That will make that transaction insignificant, or maybe not able to recall it. And then also, remember we said the struggle with documentation and record keeping. So it becomes overwhelming, and it becomes a back and forth, and there's timelines, there's deadlines. So to make sure that you don't get caught up in that, you need to make sure you have bookkeeping. Let's talk about how you can actually make sure that you stay ahead of all these problems that I've just mentioned here. So incorporating a software system into your business, which is easy. You can access on any device. I have this, a tablet, or you can access it on the phone, you can access it anywhere. Just record keeping on a daily basis. When something happens, you record it. When an invoice comes out, when a receipt, you record it. I'm talking about a solopreneur, someone who's working on their own, who doesn't have staff. But if you can, in a position to hire someone to do your bookkeeping, then brilliant, you can actually hire someone. But if you're a solopreneur, you're on the field, you're recording this, you snap that invoice or that receipt, take a picture if you did not pay with your bank account, because if it's with your bank account, you're going to be able to, it's going to be recorded on your bank statement. But then if you paid cash, you take a picture of that and you're able to upload it into the system. And then you can do things like bank feeds. You link your bank account statement with the software. You can try out the Sage software, Sage Accounting. You can try the 30-day trial. 30-day free trial, no commitment, no credit card needed. You just sign up, you start invoicing, you start recording. Make sure that you get access to those dashboard reports. Dashboard reports are going to tell you how much are you making, how much is in your bank account. You can actually see how much is your customers, how much, if you're not running a cash business, you're able to see, all right, how many customers are owing me, how much is sitting in my debtors account. That's something that you don't need to be an accountant to understand, but you definitely need to understand your numbers as a business owner. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you are a small business owner or looking to start a business, follow me on this channel, subscribe, and also I'll see you in another video.